Hi, this is Mike Levine for Audiofanzine. You're watching a video review of the Eventide Anthology X bundle, which gives you 17 plugins in one bundle. It's also got a large price, $9.99, so the question becomes, is it worth it? We'll look at and listen to many of these plugins in the review, but first, let's go over what's included. It starts with the plugins from the original Clockworks Legacy bundle, which includes the H910 and H910 Dual harmonizers, the H949 and H949 Dual, which are multi-effects harmonizers, Omnipressor, which is a software version of Eventide's Omnipressor compressor expander hardware unit, and Instant Flanger and Instant Phaser. In addition, you get two plugins based on the company's H3000 multi-effects processor, the H3000 Factory and H3000 band delays. Also included are three plugins that Eventide puts in the multi-effects category: Octavox, which is a very cool 8-voice pitch shifter and multi-effects unit, and Quadravox, which is a 4-voice version that uses less CPU. Ultra Reverb is the only reverb included, and for some reason, the Black Hole plugin, which is also reverb, was left out. In any case, Ultra Reverb sounds great and has a ton of features. EQ and channel strips include Ultra Channel, which could have been put in the multi-effects category because it has not only EQ, but two compressors, a micro pitch shift section, and a stereo delay, and a transformer emulation that sounds really good. E-Channel is another channel strip that's not quite as fully featured as Ultra Channel, but offers more than your typical channel strip and uses less CPU than Ultra Channel does. You also get two EQs. EQ45 is a model of the Uri 545, and EQ65 is a model of the Uri 565. And finally, you get Precision Time Align and Precision Time Delay, which are designed for sliding tracks backwards and forwards to align them in time and eliminate comb filtering. It's really useful on sources that you recorded with more than one microphone. Authorization is done via iLok software, but you don't need an actual iLok dongle. You can authorize your computer directly if you prefer, and Eventide lets you have two authorizations, so you can have the bundle running on two computers simultaneously. Okay, so let's take a closer look and listen to some of these plugins. I don't have time to show you all of them in this video, but I will show you some of the highlights. So let's start off with Omnipressor. As mentioned, it's based on Eventide's hardware compressor expander of the same name. It has a control set that features the usual threshold, attack, and release knobs on the left, but the right side controls work a little differently than your typical compressor. The function knob, as its name suggests, lets you change the function of the plugin from expansion to gating to compression, limiting, and then finally dynamic reversal, which is when the audio that goes over the threshold is attenuated and the audio that's below the threshold gets boosted. So you can have some pretty wild effects. The attenuation limit and gain limit knobs govern how much attenuation or limiting you'll get. They're important because they kind of give you the range of how the effect is going to impact your audio. Okay, so now let's take a listen to Omnipressor. Right now I have it bypassed. I've got a little drum track here. And I'm going to show you some of the things you can do with it. So let's put it on. Here we're compressing pretty heavily and kind of accentuating the attack of the drums. Here's just like a light compression. And as you see, it got kind of loud. Just let me stop it for a second. My biggest problem with Omnipressor is the way they handle the input and output volume. Instead of having knobs that are continuous, they have just these two buttons on each end. They have minus 10 and minus 20 dB on the input and plus 10 and plus 20 dB on the output. And I would much rather have the ability to just smoothly turn a knob and set it anywhere I want. Anyway, so back to this. Let's find another patch here. You can also do sort of like a gated sound if you want. I'll bypass first. Now I'll kick it in. overly heavy there, but you get the point. If you were working on an individual drum track in a multi-track drum mix, you could use it for gating, of course. Then if you wanted to, you know, get a real like character compressor kind of sound, it does that very well as well. But it can also be like smooth, like we could go for like a more smooth kind of compression sound, a little more transparent. So that's nice. And then if you want to get really crazy, they have the dynamic reverser. Pretty wild. Okay, so let's move on to the H949. The 949 and the 949 Dual, which is what you're looking at here, which is basically a double version of the 949. These are recreations of one of Eventide's early hardware units, one of its early harmonizers. And you can see there's controls for delay and for pitch shifting. And you can link the channels here or run them. See, they're linked. You can run them separately. Or you can use the reverse link, which is pretty cool. So when I turn one channel one direction, the other goes the same amount in the other direction. It's kind of neat. And so I'm going to use that same vocal track to show you some of the things you can get from this effects plugin. So let me run that. And here we go. I'll start it off with the plugin off.
Baby, 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 baby.
Now I'm going to turn the plugin on. We've got one of the micro pitch shifts going. There's quite a few of these micro pitch shifts. As you can see, they have all the way from 1 cent up to 50 cents of shift. Subtle but nice. And let's go to a flanger setting. Kind of cool. And let me disable the loop for a second. So pressing the repeat buttons is really cool. It gives you kind of a dub style delay. When you press them, it basically captures a little bit of the audio that's happening at that exact time, and then it repeats it. So check this out.
Baby, 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 all right.
Didn't do that too artfully, but you get the idea. You can definitely do that kind of a delay. Okay, so I've got a little electric piano line here. Just real basic, and I'm going to show you some of the sounds you can get with the H949. So I'm going to kick it in here. You'll hear that little sort of high-pitched harmony that's happening there. Or here's another one. Kind of a spacey sound. And I could go even more so. Maybe a little over the top, but as you can see, you can really use it to change things around quite a bit and add a lot of textures and interesting harmonies and delays. Now we're looking at the H3000 Factory, which is a very fully featured multi-effects unit, delay, harmonizer, and a lot more. It has 18 effects modules that can be moved around, and you can change the sounds by patching, kind of like a modular synth. You drag a virtual patch cord and do that. So as you can see, it's pretty complicated. I have to say, I looked at this and I've used a lot of multi-effects plugins, but I was like, whoa. There are some things that make it easier. For one thing, you see these 4 readouts here in the display up here, and these 4 keys. These are called soft keys, and you can assign parameters to them within a patch. And then whichever one is active is controlled by this big knob here. So that's pretty handy. So let me play you a little of this. I'm going to start out with a patch that's going to add some delay and pitch shifting on a synth line. So first I'll have it off. And now I'm going to turn it on. Pretty cool. It's spreading it out and adding more voices. And then the next thing I wanted to show you was on another synth line. I'm going to use this patch, which is... First, let me play the synth line. This is a bass line. Now I'll kick it in. So you can really have some serious impacts. So I could change the delay time if I wanted. I can change the feedback and make it go a little crazy. I can take snapshots over here, which is very handy. And there's mix control, input and output level. So anyway, that's that particular patch. Now, the third thing I wanted to show you was the drum part with a little bit of pitch shifting on it. First, here it is alone. And then I add that on. And again, I can adjust it however I want. It's pretty cool. Those are just a few of the things you can do with the H3000. Now, I wanted to show you there's a ton of presets, so don't feel bad if you don't learn how to use this thing right away. First of all, they have all the legacy presets, and then, you know, they have vocals, guitar, bass, a lot of different instrument ones. Then they have types, delays, pitch shifters, pitch and delay modulation. And as you can see, there's just quite a bit. And then you also get celebrity preset. Alessandro Cortini, Richard Devine, Scott Gershon, who is a Hollywood sound effects guy, sound designer. Another thing that's really nice is they have the alphabetical list, like they do in all the plugins in this bundle. And if you remember the name of a patch, but you don't know what category it's from, you can look it up alphabetically, and that's really nice. Okay, Octavox is a very cool harmonizer plugin. You can have up to 8 voices, and you can change intervals and change rhythmic delays using this notation grid. But let's start out. I have a very, very simple piano part, electric piano part. Just like a little scalar thing. Okay, so I'm going to turn this on now. And you can see that the notes are there in the notation grid. I can change them. This is the second voice. Move the first one up. And if I want to add delay and I want it to be rhythmic, it's easier to do it in the grid. You can see you can really come up with some pretty cool stuff, and I can add feedback. I can change panning. And if I want to manually change the intervals, I can do that too. There's a wet-dry control at the bottom. So you can adjust how much harmony there is. And you can get a lot more complicated with this. Check this one out. And, you know, you can use Octavox on vocals. It's great on vocals. It's cool on drums. Really anything with the pitch. Let's listen to it on the drum part here. First without. Now I'm going to put this patch in. Pretty cool. Now check this out. Nice, right? One thing that I like also is that you have these snapshots. You can save snapshots. You can automate them if you need to. Change the intervals if necessary when the chords change in the song. And of course, Octavox is great on vocals as well. Here is, let's see what we got here for harmonies. We'll do one of these, and here's a vocal.
Baby, 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 baby.
That's off.
Baby, all right. Baby, 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 oh, baby, 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 baby.
And you can do detuning and some interesting delay stuff too. Well, you get the idea. There's a pretty endless amount of stuff you can do with Octavox. Okay, this is Instant Flanger. It's based on an old Flanger hardware unit, and it's really pretty sweet sounding. I've got a guitar arpeggiated part here, and first we'll listen to it dry. Now we'll add, wait, let me start with it here. Get a little flange there. Now watch what happens when I turn up the feedback. Pretty cool, right? And the threshold on the envelope follower, which is part of it. You can adjust oscillator rate. It's got a lot of pretty interesting stuff. I can see if I turn up the oscillator rate, you can get pretty wild with it. And they also have instant phaser, which is right to here, and get some nice phase shifting sounds. This is also based on an old hardware unit. Kind of crazy stuff, or you can get some pretty nice. You can change the mode here. Also has an envelope follower. So that's instant phaser and instant flanger. Okay, and now one of the channel strips you get is Ultra Channel. Very, very, very fully featured. You can put a gate in. It's got 2 compressors. It's got micro pitch shift, stereo delays, and EQs, and a transformer emulation that's really pretty cool sounding. So let me turn this on. I got that drum part going here. First, let me show you about the EQs. On the low shelf, you have the choice of 2 different low cut slopes and the low shelf filter, or the standard classic peak or modern peak shapes. And then the 3 middle bands are all just the classic peak or the modern. And then the high shelving gives you choice of the high shelf, and again the 2 different slopes of the high cut. So it's pretty flexible EQ. And it's parametric. You can adjust the Q. You can invert the phase if you wanted to. You have a gate that you can put in. This is the regular compressor. It's fairly transparent, depending on how you set it, of course. But you can also drop in a saturation circuit, which is pretty cool. It has sidechain. You can set it up as a de-esser. That's nice. And then Oppressor is kind of like the, and we're getting too much level here. Oppressor is kind of like the, uses an algorithm from the Omnipressor. So it's a little more of a character kind of compressor, as you can hear. And then one of the features I really like is this transformer. Check out the difference in the sound when I kick it in. Let me take off the Oppressor. You could probably hear it better. It's off now. Now it's on. And then, of course, if you wanted a little pitch shift in there, you could do it. Stereo delays. I mean, so this is a very, very, very hip channel strip. It sounds really good, and it's got like everything you'd ever need in a channel strip. It's practically like in a multi-effects unit in itself. If you're running a lot of instances and you want to save some CPU, you can open up another channel strip that's included called eChannel. An eChannel is similar, but it doesn't have as much. It's got the same EQ section. It's got the same gate and the phase and the input gain, and the first compressor is the same as the compressor in Ultra Channel, but there's no oppressor circuit. So, but you do get the transformer, and it's really a very nice channel strip for a lot of stuff as well. Ultra Reverb, an algorithmic reverb, is the only reverb included, but it's very fully featured. Sort of similar in its own way to the way Ultra Channel is for channel strips, Ultra Reverb is for reverbs, in that it's got pretty much any kind of modification parameter you would want for reverb. You get your basic decay time and room size, but then you can add modulation. Lo-fi gives it kind of a less, gives it more of a lo-fi sound. It's the easiest way to say it. You have pre-delay, diffusion. These are the typical ones. Early reflections level, tail level. Then you can add in a delay, and the delay can be post or pre the reverb. And you can also compress the reverb, which is real good when you have like a really long reverb and you don't want it to kind of overwhelm the instrument it's on. You can compress that, and it helps kind of tighten it up. You have an equalizer, which you can equalize the reverb itself, pre-EQ, post-EQ. You can also EQ the delay. You can do a lot with it, but you could just use the presets too if you want. Let me play a little drum part here, and I'll kick it in. You can listen to some of the different algorithms. It's the hall. One of the chambers. There's a plate. That's a pretty wild one. Let me try it on a vocal. Here's a hall reverb for vocal. This is a lot of EQ on the delay. You hear it switching over. You can actually even control the time it takes to go from one patch to the next. That's called the glide rate. See, if you make it really fast and change patches, it goes pretty quickly. If you make it long, it's going to take a long time. So you can do some kind of special effects stuff with that. The delay is like a real delay. Let's get a better patch, though. Turn it on. Post gives you more of a delay sound.
Yeah.
And you can compress, like I said, you get snapshots, so it's very cool. So that's Ultra Reverb. Okay, we are in Pro Tools now, and I'm going to show you one more plugin. This is Precision Time Align, and it's designed to help get rid of comb filtering effects when you record with multiple microphones. And, sometimes if the sound is arriving at different times to different mics, if you don't have them placed correctly, you get comb filtering, and it makes the sound degrade a little bit. So I've got this acoustic guitar part here that was recorded in stereo with two mics in a spaced pair configuration. They were about 2 feet apart. So let me just play a little. Now I've set Precision Time Align with a 2 feet as the distance. You can actually set a distance on this, which is pretty cool, since that was the distance of the mics. And so let's take a listen. Now it's on. Big difference, huh? It sounded okay like this, but it's much flatter and two-dimensional. And here it sounds really nice and big in stereo. And they also have Precision Time Delay, which doesn't quite have as much in the way of features, but they recommend that you use it if you do not have delay compensation in your DAW. So anyway, that's a very useful plugin that's part of the bundle. Overall, Anthology X gives you a huge arsenal of effects, covering a wide variety of types, but the biggest emphasis is on effects that use pitch shifting and delay in them, harmonizing. And the sound quality is really stellar all around, and seems as if Eventide has done a really good job of creating software versions of its hardware effects. To me, some of the real standouts are Omnipressor, Octavox, and Quadravox, of course, Ultra Reverb, Ultra Channel, and Precision Time Align. But really, every plugin in the bundle is of very high quality. Now, I gave it 3.5 stars out of 5, and I would have given it a higher score because the plugins are so cool, save for one very important factor, the price. It's $999 for the bundle. And that's a lot to pay for effects. And yes, you do get a lot, and it is a good deal compared with buying the plugins individually. But to me, there's some redundancy in this bundle because there's so many harmony processors. Maybe Eventide could have slimmed this bundle down a little by taking out some of the harmonizers and lowering the price. Yes, it's true that the different harmonizers are based on different units, so they have somewhat different sounds and different interfaces and different capabilities, but still in all, they produce a lot of similar effects. So I think we could have definitely gotten by without all of the ones that are included, and if that meant that the price dropped, it would have been a good thing. However, there is no question that if you have the budget for it, Anthology X will give you an instant collection of processor and effects plugins that will bolster your effects processing arsenal many, many times over. So let's quickly go over the pros and cons here. Under pros, huge selection of effects plugins. Many of the plugins are emulations of classic Eventide hardware effects. Includes reverb, pitch, delay, modulation, channel strips, and EQs. Excellent quality pitch shifting throughout. Octavox provides up to 8 voices of pitch shifting and delay with notation-style editing. Omnipressor is a very versatile compressor expander gate. Ultra Reverb combines excellent sound with an incredibly deep feature set. Ultra Channel is an extremely well-equipped channel strip. E-Channel gives you many of the features of Ultra Channel with reduced CPU usage. Precision Time Align and Precision Time Delay make aligning multi-mic tracks easy. Instant Flanger and Instant Phaser offer excellent sound quality for effects of their type. Patch lists offer alphabetical view. Installation easy. You can authorize to iLock or to your computer. 2 simultaneous authorizations allowed. Now the cons, very expensive, a lot of redundancy in terms of pitch shifting delay effects. H3000 Factory interface not particularly intuitive. Black hole reverb not included. Omnipressor could use input and output knobs or sliders. Okay, so that concludes my video review of the Eventide Anthology X software bundle. This is Mike Levine for Audiofanzine. Thanks very much for watching.